enunciation, I'm sorry. You guys will look at it, want to see, and we'll start this forum. I'm Michelle Treese. I'm so happy that you guys are here. We're hoping we can have some more folks show up, but this is a good crowd to start with. So we invited Rusty Crowe, and if Rusty comes in, we will give him his props. But right now we've got Kate Craig, who's going to talk to us tonight about So I got a phone call earlier, it's like, hey, Michelle, can you do this for us? And there's no way I can turn something down. So for those that don't know, Kate was my high school biology student a couple years ago. And I'll have to tell you, Kate was the first student ever in my class after, I don't know how many years it was, who said, Mistress, I'm not dissecting. I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Everybody else, what do you mean? I'm not going to do it. I'll do anything different. I'll never, what I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay in the hall. So I want to see it and I want to smell it. And she was the first student I said, okay. So we have got her to do something for Kate, and look, here she is today. So she's a rock. But what I want to do first is welcome you guys here to this event. If you have Facebook, Twitter, any of those Instagram accounts, and you want to live stream, please do so. I think we do have some cameras that are set up to do that, so you're welcome to do any kind of live streaming. Yes. Yes, and you could, if you're doing that, please go to Kate Craig, is there a special at Kate Craig TN, and if you would share that or post it on that page, that would be great as well. So please feel free to do that. Please note that the League of Women Voters and Johnson City Press have a forum as well for some, I think, the candidates in City Commission and School Board. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at some of those questions. And Rusty Crowe was invited to attend that, and he did not attend as well. So we're glad that Kate's willing to step up and share with us her thoughts. So one thing, again, for Kate on my behalf is, some of you know that I'm on the school board, and I'm not running this term around, which is a good thing for me. I have other things in plan, but I do know that some of the values that I feel that this community needs, I know that Kate shares as well. So I do want you to know that I give her 100% support. She's not paying me 1 cent to stay here and do this, but I do. See, there you go. That's all around the world. But she's got values that I think our community needs, and so I do want you to pay close attention to what she's got to say. We will have some questions here to ask, and then we're going to open the floor for you guys to actually ask the questions that you have. So as she's talking and making some comments, if you want to write down some ideas that you have and want to jot some questions out, you will have the opportunity to share those questions from your mouth to her, and she'll give you those answers as well. So I'm going to invite Kate up and have her give you some thoughts. I'm going to pick close to them. Okay, I'm going to invite Kate up, Kate Craig, folks, so she'll give you a little bit of welcome.
Deserve to have an opportunity to ask candidates questions. I think that's part of the core of running for office. And as Michelle mentioned, the Johnson Press and League of Women Voters organized a forum for us, and they invited us. This was supposed to be October 3rd. And Rusty declined. He said that he wouldn't do it. So this is why this event is happening. So thank you all for coming. For those that don't know, my name is Kate Craig. I'm running for state senate here, and I'm running against a 32-year incumbent. And being real honest, I wasn't going to be the one that stepped up for the seat. I was recruiting people to run for the seat. And then as the filing deadline came, my now wife and I were getting engaged and all of that. And then they extended the deadline, and I started to think, why not me? And part of my story is that my family moved here as my father got out of the Navy when I was 3. And so I grew up in this community when my parents split. So I grew up in Johnson City and Elizabeth. I'm a graduate of the Johnson City Public Schools, and I grew up going to Muncie Memorial United Methodist Church and Memorial Presbyterian Church over in Elizabeth. And so this is my story. This is my home. These mountains always say when you come through here, it feels like they are hugging you. I love this place. I graduated from ETSU and I worked for a bunch of nonprofits. I worked for the Girl Scouts, and then I worked for the food bank. Had lots of years where I would go and talk to people collecting data for the hunger study, and I talked to people who were making decisions every single day, choosing between food and medicine, choosing between food and paying their rent. There are so many people in our community that are food insecure, and it's scary. And I'm wondering, why isn't somebody doing something? And being real honest, back in 2006 when I was doing that, Rusty Crowe was in office. He could have done something about that. I spent 10 years in DC. I was working for the Navy, and I supported the self-defense test ship that was docked out in Fort Wayne. So that's what I did when I was out in DC. I supported programs to keep our sailors safe while they were at sea. And then I got a really bad motorcycle accident. And in that, I had to relearn how to walk. Both of my feet got shattered. They had to reattach everything in my right shoulder due to the injuries in my right wrist. I had to learn how to be left-handed. And I had to overcome a head injury. So my point in sharing that is that I know what it's like to have to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. And I also know what it's like to face just mountains of medical bills. I know what that looks like. I know what it looks like when your employer tells you, I'm not going to deal with these disabilities that you have, and they let you go. I know what it looks like when you don't have income coming in, and you're trying to figure out how to pay rent. I know how stigmatized it is to show a food stamps card. I was on food stamps during this time. I still have my Virginia EBT card, and would show that trying to just survive and get food. These are stories that people in our community have every day, and it's sad. 1 in 5 people in our district don't have access to internet or broadband. 1 in 10 who are under the age of 65 don't have access to health insurance. We had the opportunity in 2013 to expand Medicaid, and we didn't do it. Right now, that's worth getting $5.57 million a day back here in the state. It's fiscally irresponsible that we don't do that. So that's something that I'm a champion for. But the Rusty Crowe solution was to create the largest medical monopoly in the nation. And by the way, expanding Medicaid would have helped both of those hospital systems. It would have alleviated the crisis. So when he was creating this medical monopoly, changing the state law that created protections, umbrella protections against the federal antitrust laws, the FTC was saying, don't do this. This is dangerous. Don't do this. And he sold it with that the benefits outweigh the costs. How many here think the benefits outweigh the costs for this medical monopoly? Yeah, I don't think so either. And actually, that is the reason I stepped up to run. Because as I go through surgeries after this accident, because it's not a one-time thing and you're recovered, this has been years. I've had procedures done in this hospital system. And there are wonderful providers in this hospital system, people that work their tails off trying to provide, and they're not getting the resources they need to be successful. People are leaving for better pay because they're being so underpaid here, and this started long before COVID. I'm tired of having somebody in office that attacks our teachers. Education is the bedrock of our democracy. It absolutely is. And it is reprehensible that our governor said nothing when our teachers were told that they were trained by the dumbest parts of the dumbest schools and said that anybody could do that job. It was sad that our governor, it was reprehensible that our governor remained silent. And quite frankly, it's reprehensible that Rusty Crowe claimed to support teachers while voting for bills that he had no idea what was in the legislation. Recently he was called before a committee, and he had voted president on the committee in 2019 to create the Charter School Commission. And he said, whatever we decide our local schools, our local school boards can override what we do, right? And they said, nope. Actually, we have full control, and he was just baffled that this was the case. I'm going, do you not read the legislation? A local teacher wrote him about the books, where they were told that they have to inventory all of their books. And she invited him to come and inventory the books with her. She invited all of her representatives to be there, but she invited him to come do it. And he wrote back to her and said, well, this doesn't apply to you. First of all, this applies to other people. And the second part was that this doesn't apply to the books in the classroom. So in the second hearing in Nashville recently, he said that, well, this doesn't apply to the teacher's classroom. And again, he was corrected. Actually, this bill that you voted on this past May does include the books in the classroom. He had no idea what he's voting on. He just goes right along and is willing to attack our teachers. He supported legislation that got a teacher in Sullivan County fired. That's sad. Matthew Hahn is a friend of mine, and quite frankly, I think he'd be a friend to all of you because he cares so deeply about this community and his students, just as so many of our teachers. And I'm going to actually just give a plug. This is why I asked Michelle to be here, not to be able to point and say teacher, but because when I went back, I knew it was Treese. And it took me years, you can ask her, it took me years to call her Michelle. I was like, Miss Treese, and she's like, you're going on before you stop it. But these people changed my life, touched my life. When my parents were going through a divorce, it was my teachers that comforted me. When I was going through a hard time in school, it was my teachers that noticed. It was my teachers that inspired me, that made me believe in have fun with math and have fun with science. And so, I mean, I was a big marching band kid. I played trumpet, still have my trumpet. And music will always be a big part of my soul. And I guess since I'm up here, I'll also freely admit I was on the German folk dancing team. Frau Backe, who was teaching at Science Hill, was one of the best teachers. She took us to what was, what was the other ice cream shop? Oh, Baskin Robbins. When it was there where Cafe Lola was, we'd walk down from Science Hill and we would pay in Deutschmarks. This is before the euro. And, but she was invested in making it fun. So these are the memories I carry forward. And I know that every student that has all of these teachers, and teachers I didn't have, that these memories that kids have are what inspires them to be the best they can be. So that's why for me, healthcare and education are the two big things of my platform, absolutely. So I don't want to go through the entire sub-speech here. I want to open it up to questions. But thank you so much for being here. So the first question we have, and I don't know if Rusty wants to comment. So the first question we have is, early voting started today. Voters have already been casting their ballots in the election. Why should voters cast their vote for you? And what makes you different from the other? Well, first of all, I'm here. Because I've been saying for months now, where is Crowe? And since the beginning of this campaign, I've been going to every community event, every festival, every parade, every opportunity to meet with people. I've been at people's doors, I've been calling voters, because I think it's important to talk to people about the issues that matter to them. That is the core part of when you run for office. You should go talk to people, and he's not doing that. So if I said one thing that's separated myself from him, is that I'm showing up. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of other questions that I can differentiate myself, and I'll do that. But that's the big one. I'm here, and he's not. So the second question we have is, you are running a platform that has called out the negative impacts to our area from having a medical monopoly. What will you do to address these issues? I've been asked this question a lot because it's easy to point out that there's things that are wrong with the system, that prices are going up and access to care is going down. But what can you do with it? How, are we stuck with this monopoly? What's going on? And the answer is probably definitely a little more complicated, but in the sense that the first thing I would do is I would say hospital oversight board. And so I think that we need something with some teeth to hold our medical monopoly accountable as we work to unravel the COPA. Right now, we have nothing that does that. It's supposed to be the Tennessee Department of Health that holds the monopoly accountable, and that's not happening. And even during COVID, for almost 2 years, the COPA was suspended. There was nothing to hold, no standards to hold them to. It just got reinstated back this past July. But just to give an example, there were 5 cardiac deaths that happened at Folsom Valley, and so everybody asked what was going on, and people were saying, "Is there a commonality? What happened?" And Battle said there was nothing, no commonality. This is tragic, and they lied to the public, and they lied to the families. And very much thanks to Amy Cook, who just pursued this. She went after trying to find the truth. Because that's all she's ever been after is the truth. And she put in a FOIA request with the Department of Health and uncovered what Ballard was hiding. And in it, she found that all 5 patients in that short stay, like I was saying, like 4 or 5 days, went into the same post-op ICU room, and they all died. And that's not to say that that's exactly what happened, but in this, like, what caused it, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I am trying to say is that they lied. Ballard lied about that. Because that should have been found out, and that should have been investigated. They should have had the room closed down, they should have had it scrubbed, they should have been trying to figure out ways to keep patients safe and been transparent about it. But during this investigation, what else happened was that the head of the Tennessee Department of Health, Lisa Piercy, emailed Ballard Health's CEO, Al Levine, and she said, I know you're good. Everything's going to be fine. You don't do that when your organization is investigating the other. There is no teeth to hold this medical monopoly accountable. So that's the first part. The second is that in 2013, they said that, or 2015, this was sold as that the benefits outweigh the costs. And there's so much data that shows it doesn't, from the increasing medical bankruptcies to the fact that 80,000 people now live over an hour away from a level 1 trauma center. That people in Mountain City are now having to make decisions to go out of network just to be 45 minutes to a level 1 trauma center. That people are being asked to buy helicopter ambulance ride, annual memberships, with weather pending that they can get to a level 1 trauma center. That these things shouldn't happen, that our hospital systems get downgraded. Quite personally, I'm scared of what's going to happen if something happens in Easton. And there's even been a recent explosion. And talking with some of the folks that were there were pipers that were in there, and they saved lives on the way they ran out of their closing stuff. But what would have happened if they weren't able to get to that? And so now we've got a clog down on 26 trying to get to Johnson Medical Center, the level 1 trauma center, and there's not enough beds. That's scary to me. It's absolutely scary. If my motorcycle accident had happened on the Snake up in Johnson County, and I didn't have this injury, but they thought I had a broken femur, which is a level 1 trauma. If that had been what that was, I could have died on the way to a level 1 trauma center. How many other, I know that there are motorcycle accidents on the Snake. People deserve access to care. So that's what I would do to help address that, is put in a hospital oversight board and then actively work to untangle that legislation.
Good job.
So I'm going to go to a question that is not one that was presented earlier, but it's in the same line. So Kate mentioned about Medicaid expansion, and that in the past this has not ever been offered to this area. Can you tell the average person out here, if we had that in Washington County, Johnson City, how would that look to us? What would be different with our medical concerns if that were offered?
I can speak broader in terms of the broader district. Again, we have 1 in 10, it's actually a little over, but 1 in 10 of District 3 under the age of 65 don't have access or don't have any health insurance. And so Medicaid expansions, first of all, does everybody know what Medicaid expansion is? I haven't looked up, so this isn't. So in 2013, like after the Affordable Care Act was passed, part of it was given to the states to be able to expand Medicaid. And actually, the Supreme Court gave it and said, oh, you can't just universally do it, it has to be a state's decision. And so, and what this did was Medicaid, as it stands, or what we know as tenure, is that you have to be maybe 93% of the poverty line to qualify. That's currently where as a single income earner household. That's how you qualify. And so the Bill Haslam actually created Insure Tennessee, and that was trying to get passed. And it came up for a vote, and it didn't pass. But nobody's championed it here, and it's funny because 80% of Tennesseans support Medicaid expansion. We lose out on billions of dollars every year because of this. And billions of dollars doesn't really mean a lot to me, and actually our good friend, and we'll get John's our good friend Carly Playbaker is the one who said break it down to the daily. Is that $5.57 million a day? That's a little more tangible to me of what that means. That's a lot of money. And so that money coming in would then mean that those making like 126% of the poverty line could now be insured for a single income earner. And it's a little more than that, it's 2 incomes, but obviously we're going to insure more people. So think of all the young people that are going to roll off their parents' health insurance at the age of 26 that are currently falling in gaps. There's 800,000 Tennesseans right now that don't have health insurance, and we can do something about that. But the other thing that we could use that money for is that, we have a state of overdoses that are happening due to fentanyl here. And so we could put that money into doing a couple of different things. And one is into treatment centers and being able to provide more Narcan and more medication-assisted treatment and more things that can help people that are in need. The other thing that we learned is that we talked with the Johnson City Police Department, or Johnson City Police at a community roundtable, and they said that they can't prosecute those bringing the fentanyl-laced drugs in. And we asked why. And they said even if we have a person of interest, that if there's a fatal overdose, it takes the medical examiner 90 days to get the report back. And they can't charge somebody and arrest them until they have that report. And in that 90 days, that person of interest is gone. So our community is now in danger because of this. I'd also like to point out that Rusty Census chaired the Health and Welfare Committee and could have done something. So in this, he could have championed Medicaid and could champion those dollars to go into hiring more medical examiners to give our police departments the resources they need to solve this. Because I don't believe in prosecuting those who are using. I think that should be, that's a medical issue and we should do treatment. But those who are killing people in our community, that's different. And so we can hire more medical examiners that are dedicated to that county because we're also, Washington County is considered a high impact area county. And that's named by the state in terms of the number of overdoses we have, and they're on the rise. And so we can do that, turn around medical examiners faster and get the resources and start keeping our community safer.
So I want to do a group check right quick. I want you to raise your hand if you or someone you know does not have insurance or does not have enough insurance. Okay. Now I want you to raise your hand if you or someone you know has been affected by fentanyl. So again, I mean, it's unfortunate that Wesley's not here to see that this is a real thing that affects people. And, you know, again, we're here, we're listening, but it's real. We obviously raise our hand to know that, yes, it's real. So the next question says, as a retired educator, public education is near and dear to my heart. You talked about fully funding public education, but what exactly does that mean? How will you fully fund public education?
First of all, I pay our teachers one. I mean, we've got $8 million sitting in a rainy day fund that they're just stashing away and they won't spend. So that'd be the first thing I do. The second is that, I mean, like I said earlier after you were talking about education, that I think education is the bedrock of our democracy. Public education is. And so I would make sure that every student that enters gets access to all the books, all the technology, everything to prepare them, not just for college, but if they're going to a technical school, that they want to be with a skill, whatever that path is, that they can get that in that school, they have access to that training, that job, that job opportunity, whatever that is, they have access to that in the school. And so right now, what we have is Crowe is supporting our vouchers and supporting charter schools. I mean, goodness knows, just look at how he votes and look at where he's getting his campaign dollars. He's getting money from charter school tax. I think that money should be stripped away from our public schools and it should stay there. We've seen our local taxes rise because he won't invest in our public schools. When the hall tax got repealed, and now those dollars are all gone, we've seen our property taxes go up, just trying to offset that. And we're going to see that same thing again with this new funding formula in a couple of different ways. Because for one, it underfunds the number of teachers we need, asking our teams to do that. And goodness knows Unicoi can't afford to do that in the same way that Washington County could or Johnson City public schools could. And so there's going to be a disparity in education. But on top of that, the funding formula is also based on performance. And so if the school doesn't perform, and if you've underfunded schools and you've underpaid teachers, and you stripped everything out of the classroom, at what rate do you think this school is going to perform the way that you set the bar? So then on top of that, money then is going to be justified to get stripped away and sent to charter schools to give students choice. That's not a choice, and as Dr. Martin likes to point out, what choice does that give to the students that are still in the public schools? There's no choice. So, and on top of that, that's more money for the local communities to have to make up, so more property taxes to go up. So all Russell's do is raising your property taxes. But when I say fully funding our public schools, I mean, let's not just look at our pile of money that we're just sitting on and having glee about, but spend it and invest it in our schools. And so I want to see the technology come in. I want to make sure that every student has a textbook. I want to make sure that schools are quality. I know that there's even worried about classes or schools in Washington County that are deteriorating and need to be replaced. They shouldn't have the funding to do that, and I want to see that happen.
So this is the first round of questions, and we'd like to open up the floor to anyone out there. So if you have any questions, if you jot down some things, is there anything that you're interested in, and we could one of two ways. If you guys want to come here and line up, and I can go jot down what you'd like to do, that's fine. Yeah, so if you guys have questions, and then we'll just come back and right here.
My name is Listina Carpenter. Here recently, a lot of schools have been closed down in one big school. That was right after I graduated. I had a lot of friends and neighbors who they had to wake up at around 4 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning because they had multiple kids. They gotta get stuff ready, get their lunch ready, get them to school. And that's just not good because you gotta go to bed sometime. And
one thing that I would support, because this affects students being able to get enough sleep, but two, special needs students that need that. The second thing, as you mentioned busing, is that part of the fully funding, I think that having access to your school includes busing. I don't think that students should have to spend so much time on a bus to get into a classroom. So I think that in the same way that we talk about healthcare and hospitals and all of that being accessible, I think the classrooms should be accessible too. And I don't just mean for students with disability, I do mean that, but I also mean geographically. So, does that answer your question?
Hi, I'm Crowe, and I teach math at ETSU. And on your subject, at Southside Elementary, when my children were going there, the state came in, and we're going to combine all these small schools and make one big school system that will be so much more efficient. And the parents came out in huge numbers and said, no, under any circumstances do we want these huge schools. So at least at that point, the message got out. That wasn't what I was trying to ask, but I had a vision that there was a strong local feeling against this big schools, big whatever it is. And actually, Janice Long was the, I don't know if you know Janice, she was the chair of the math department at ETSU, and Rusty Crowe was her babysitter. And this was when he was first getting into politics, so I asked the chair if she thought Rusty Crowe would make a good senator. And I never heard of Rusty Crowe. She said, I would vote for him for babysitter. But I don't remember why. Who should I vote for city commissioner or the school board? Maybe I should ask your teacher.
If you're in the room and you're ready for city commission, please stand up.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
For city commission?
For city commissioner and the school board. I don't know these names.
I don't think that there are any school boards. What I do remember from the school board forum is that Sam Pennyjohn, I believe Tom Hager, and Kathy Hall all said that they would not censor schools.
Good. Those are the three names.
There you go, and Robert Boyd said that. Those are the three I remember.
Good job.
I mean, I'll tell you that those three are the right guys I voted for. Next question for you.
I'm not sure if this is an appropriate question, but for those of you who know me, I don't always ask appropriate questions. I forgot I have some ask. But anyway, I have heard complaints for many years, and I know how big you are in education, and also I know how big you are in university and all areas. I have heard for many years there have been many people who have tried
represent, and say visually and ethnically, all of that culturally represents the diversity of the national system. I know as a masculine presenting gay woman what that's like to walk into a room and have nobody look like me. And I know talking to others what that's like that if you were a black person walking into a room that's all white. And there is, I want to say that there is a code switching that goes on in terms of how you talk, how you address the room, and how safe you feel in that environment. I also know how inspiring that can be, that when you have that you can say, I can now believe because I can see it. There is a wonderful picture that was captured of a young girl in front of Michelle Obama's portrait. This went viral, I want to say about 2 or 4 years ago. And this, I don't know, she's like probably somewhere in the 2, 3 years old range. And you could, she can now imagine this beautiful, powerful, strong black woman that she can now be. And she didn't have, like, I mean, these are people like, now we have Vice President Kamala Harris. So having this type of representation matters at all levels, in the classroom, in organizations, just everywhere. So it'd be a priority of mine to make sure that diversity and inclusion was in every form, in the classroom and elsewhere.
My name is Tom Garcia, and as probably everybody has seen, there is an attack on our democratic values, our democracy throughout the country. It seems like at the national, local, and state levels, there's this denial of democratic values going on. We saw that on January 6th, where there are a lot of people from this area that actually went to January 6th and took part in the insurrection. A lot of that has to do with misinformation. And unfortunately, people do not believe the truth. And unfortunately, it's still going on. As one of my teachers on this teacher thing, in government and social studies back when I was in school, said democracy starts with the grassroots. And so if we start with democratic values at the grassroots level, what could you do to help fight this ongoing attack on our democracy and our values, to uphold what we all know should be the rights of every American to vote, to uphold the rights of other people around them, so that we don't lose what is our freedom and our American values.
Yeah, and just to add also that the cause is a lack of leadership. And I think that we have avoided it. So one of the things I would do is be honest with everyone about what's happening, and I wouldn't be silent. And for those who know me knows that I'm already not silent about this. But I think that we have people that aren't being silent, as we even have a former mayoral candidate here that is calling, wanting to sue the election commission about the electoral process. And we have wonderful people on both sides of the aisle that work in our election commission, working to make for fair and safe elections. And as an elected leader, I would do nationally, I would do one, I think everybody, as soon as they turn 18, should be automatically registered. Especially for a first-time voter to vote if they need an absentee ballot. So if you get registered at high school right now, or if you go off to college, you don't know that you have to register, that you either registered in person or vote for the first time in person, and you're denied your absentee ballot. That's wrong. I also think that your ID, if we're going to go with IDs, that your state issued, like your ECSU ID and all that should count as an ID that you can present. I think there should be no excuse to absentee voting. Just you don't have to go register. trying to do everything we can to make voting accessible to everyone. And so I support any system that's going to be transparent and fair and accessible about it.
I know I'm not running for office, but I do want to add to an answer to the question about what can we do is get involved. If you're in this room, I challenge you all to get involved. Join an organization. Because there's a quote out there, I wish I could remember, but it says, when they came for person A and then no one was there, and they came for person B, now they're coming for me and everyone's gone. So we have to get involved, and that is so not how it goes. But you know, we've got to get involved, and I just wanted to throw that out there.
Kate, I have just a very simple question. But first, I want to preface it by saying that you cannot find anybody on the right who gives a darn about our environment. You can search far and wide. You can search far and wide on the Tennessee Republicans, on any of our local, like Rusty's website or any websites, on anyone running for office or anyone currently in office in our entire state, on the right, just hardly anyone who cares about our environment. What my question is we're just Tennessee. We're not the United States. We're not North America. We're not the world. But what can we do? And what do you plan to do to move our state toward addressing climate change as much as we can and be a leader in the United States instead of at the bottom? That's essential to me.
I mean, quite frankly, it's critical for all of us that, start addressing climate change. So I think it's a top priority, and that includes talking about investing in public transit. That includes talking about clean water and looking at what the TVA has had and dumping stuff into our water. That even Easton has been cited for having stuff dumping into our water. So there's all kinds of things that we need to address. We should at least start investing more in electric vehicles, and that includes the infrastructure to support that. It's great that we're leading in terms of manufacturing as the state, but if you're traveling across the state, where are you charging your vehicle? So we should be leading on that. And there's all kinds of other technology. I was reading recently that they have stuff that you can install on the road, and it charges your vehicle as you're driving. We should be investing in that. That also includes investing in our education and was now STEAM, but we have to have arts there and people dream of these new ideas and innovation. So we have to be investing in that. We like to have people, everybody likes to say how wonderful and beautiful this area is. Well, I said that at the beginning. But you can't say that and not protect it. Right now, we've got so many natural disasters that are happening because people are not protecting it. We're prioritizing things around corporate profits and everything else about development, and we're not doing anything smart about our development. We're not caring where our runoff water goes. We're not caring about the fact that our water and wastewater, our piping is now like 50 plus years older than it was asked to be. And so we've got stuff seeping into our drinking water. We're not talking about the fact of how we dispose of medicine and now that's getting into our water and it's affecting our ecosystem. We have to start addressing that. We've lost ski resorts that were around here because it doesn't sell enough. And that was businesses here, it's affecting agriculture. So I want to see more green opportunities come in. I'd like to see TVA invest in more opportunities that include solar and water that we can invest in that's not just natural gas. And I'd like to have a better incentive to them that you're transitioning away from coal. So that's where I fall on that in terms of being able to help incentivize and have policies that protect our environment.
My name is this Saturday. My question concerned, I was concerned about your stance or what your stance or position is on the 4 constitutional amendments to the Tennessee Constitution.
Yep, that's on your ballot. This year, there are 4 amendments getting added, or that are on the ballot to vote on. The first one is really, it's a means of breaking up unions. And so in that, I mean, we've already had that on the books since 1947 of right to work. Now they want to put it in the Constitution, which will make it even harder to overturn. And in right to work states, workers earn up to $10,000, at least $10,000 less a year than in non-right to work states. That workers have little to no voice about any of their work environments in right to work states. That it's basically the right to get fired. I could be fired for just the way that I look in right to work states because I don't wear dresses enough. So this measure, I'm voting no on it, and I would encourage everyone to vote no on it. Amendment 2 is this one seems to be there isn't an official like stance coming out and everybody should vote this way or that way. I'll tell you how I feel about it. And I talked with Dr. Martin about this one as well. And it's a line of succession. And I think that there's a lot of, rumors going around about this one, but really it's, if something were to happen to the governor, that therefore then the lieutenant governor would take over until the governor then writes a letter and states himself. Or if the department heads that the governor appoints deems that the governor is not fit to do their job, that they would then take a vote and then say the governor is not fit to do the job, and then the governor would then again write a letter back to have the job back. So there isn't any coup happening within this, but that's what Amendment 2 is. And I'm voting yes on it as well as Dr. Martin, because that one is a way to, we're one of the few states, if not the only state that doesn't have a line of succession. And so this is correct in our Constitution to have that. Amendment 3 is reprehensible that slavery is still in our Constitution as a acceptable form of punishment. And it should have been gone a century over a century ago, but it's still there. So, without any doubt, I'm asking everyone as well to join me in voting yes on Amendment 3 to remove slavery. Amendment 4 is to remove the ban on clergy serving in the state jail system. And this one kind of hit in a bunch of different ways. One, it's also important to point out that the courts already did say it's unconstitutional to ban clergy serving. As a gay person and as a woman, I have a lot of problems with extremism and worried about, let's say, right-wing and where evangelical thought goes around restricting who I have the right to marry, about what I can do with my body, and so I worry about that. At the same time, I know that I'm actively advocating to get Reverend Warnock elected in Georgia. And it felt hypocritical of me to say, yes, I want to support Reverend Warnock to be elected, but no, clergy can't serve here. So I know that we actively, as Democrats, there are 2 members of the clergy that are elected in the General Assembly. And if we were to clarify this, we would lose them. We'd actually lose 3 members of the clergy that are serving. And so I couldn't justify that based on my fears. I didn't want to remove one because I was afraid because of some extremism, knowing that there were some great people, that there were a lot of great members of even civil rights movement, but I'll say that this disproportionately affects the Black community. And there are a lot of community leaders that are reverends in the Black community. And so I didn't want to see that be discriminated, so I'm voting yes on Amendment 4.
Hey, my name is Elijah. I'm the co-chair of the Young Democratic Socialists of America, UTSU. For about a year now, our organization has been fighting for a $50 minimum wage on campus. It's a campaign we really care about, and I put a lot of effort into. But sadly, it's not that big of an ask anymore, because something like 24 $4, I think, is the living wage now. And throughout the process, we've had a lot of pushback from a lot of the conservative elements on campus about stuff like inflation, possible tuition increases, and honestly, just the regular arguments that have always been mocked of people fighting for labor rights or people fighting for increased working conditions. And I guess my question is, what do you say to those criticisms about being a proponent of minimum wage increases yourself? What do you say to those criticisms about inflation, about things like that?
First of all, for those who don't know, I am fully on board with the fight for 15 and the fight for $15. I also agree that right now that's a start. So when people talk about that, that's going to be, oh, prices are going to go up if we do this and all that. Well, look around. Prices are going up and we haven't raised wages. And quite frankly, it's the corporate greed. So this whole boogeyman in a closet that they're talking about is just a means to scare people. When I talk to some tried and true small businesses, like when I think of those mom and pop shops that are worried that they're operating on margins, that there should be something to do to help them get their workers to a $15 minimum wage so that they can still keep their doors open. Because there's so many in our downtown is thriving because those shops came in. Again, I go back to that $8 billion that's sitting there. I'm not against having a rainy day fund, but $8 billion, really? And so I would like to have a program come in that, let's just say that they're paying them $7.25 an hour. I think that they're probably paying them closer to 10 to 12, but we'll just say $7.25. That these companies, that these mom and pop shops can apply, and we can deem that the state would have a program to deem them, yes, that they do qualify under this, that this would break them if they paid their workers $50. That this program would come in and help offset that, so that those workers, that difference from $7.25 to $15 got there. The workers making $15 an hour, and the business keeps its doors open, and then they have time over a series of years to get to where they can pay it, but they have to have a promise to then keep up with inflation. So in that, we keep businesses, but we also help workers. And I hate that we've been given this false narrative that you're either for workers or you're for businesses. And I'm not talking to Amazons, and I'm not talking about the Walmarts of the world, but I'm talking about these business people that, like, I don't even talk about business. I'm talking about people that try and go out and start something and hire people. And that, I think we have to have both to survive, and we need both thriving. So that's what I say to people when I do that, because I get that there is a concern with one. There isn't a concern with the Walmarts, McDonald's, the Amazons, and even the balance of the world. So they should absolutely, they don't need that kind of program.
So when you said a list, I have a list. So another question I had was, here in the area, I noticed that there is a lot of places for Christians to worship, but not a lot of places for people of other religions to be able to worship. I am pagan, and normally we have to go to our local curiosity or crystal shop to go and be able to do what we do to worship. We don't get to have a temple, we don't get sectioned off places outside, which is normally what we need, is we worship outside. Is there anything that can be done to help people who have a right to religion, to religious worship and religion in general?
Well, I can't do anything about the state or the federal tax credit because I'm talking about the 501c3, that part of it. But one of the things that we can talk about is the issue of stigmatization, for one. Is that I think that everything, whether you are somebody that is outside of the Christian norm, that you don't practice in one way, in that specific way, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Jewish, whether you're pagan, whether, whatever it is you practice, or you are a person that isn't a person of faith, there's so much stigma associated with that. You're either a believer or you're not. And we have to do something to break that apart. Because, quite frankly, we're all a community, and we all do better when we all do better. So I think every place that should be a welcome environment, and we should do things that I think we can make it more welcoming and stop stigmatizing, stop attacking people for their beliefs. And this includes, like, we've got the legislature attacking people around, I'm gonna say, their First Amendment rights. And we've got the legislature banning books in the classroom that is different from what they personally believe, then it stigmatizes things. So if we can work to destigmatize, it will create opportunities for more places to thrive and people that feel more comfortable worship as they believe. Does that answer your question?
It's organized. If you find two or more gathered, go for it. You know, there's another line that goes with that too, but I'm gonna speak it. You know, there are places that you can be, and I'm all about letting people know that you're out here. You know, it doesn't matter if you want to put an ad in there that says, hey, we are thinking we're going to meet today at whatever, do it. You know, and people are like, oh, I didn't know what to think. That's about. So I think you organize it.
I'm on, and my question is about women's health and women's rights. And as we all know, recently the Roe v. Wade was overturned, and in Tennessee, especially, they had a full abortion ban. And as someone who is a woman and has those concerns, of course, I just want to know what your stance is, and of course, and also that what are your plans in hopefully getting women's health back?
So I'm running against one of the co-sponsors of our state trigger bill, our trigger ban. And I think it has made women and people who could give birth less safe in this state. I think it has jeopardized lives, and it's already, not as potential, it is already happening. So I think about a few things, because I know this is a very emotionally charged subject for a lot of people. And usually my lead-in when I talk about this is I'll say, you know what, I think what happened in Ohio, what happened here, is that a 10-year-old who was a victim of rape, should not be forced to carry a term. And that is incredibly reprehensible. I think that a woman who has an ectopic pregnancy, whose life is on the line, that her doctor should be able to perform life-saving care. I'll go ahead and say this, I don't think a politician's place is in that patient's room. They wrote it intentionally where they're targeting the doctors. And so in that, they've said that, oh, it's an acceptable defense, and that's what they're calling are the exceptions. It's not an exception by saying this. And so these exceptions, these defenses that they give doctors aren't going to use. So recently, we had in Chattanooga, and her blood pressure was going through the roof, and she it was a non-viable pregnancy, and their doctor was also doing said, I can't do this. I am terrified I will lose my medical license. I am terrified of being sued. I have children that I have to look after. What do you do? And so now this woman got put on an ambulance for a 6-hour ride to North Carolina to a hospital there for medical treatment and for an abortion to save her life. And she's now going to have that 6-hour hospital ambulance ride as an out-of-network bill because doctors know in practice. On top of the fact that I'm not faulting the doctors on that, I'm just saying doctors wouldn't do it. That doctor quit her job and took a job in Colorado where she could practice medicine. So this trigger bill is so extreme, is that we're going to lose our healthcare providers, we're going to lose jobs and companies coming in, we're going to lose workers, everybody's going, do I stay? I need healthcare. People are going to be going, who's going to come to ETSU? Who's going to come to all the different schools? It's just this ripple effect of what's going to happen. But just to also share, they're coming for our birth control next. They've already said that. And I'm sorry, birth control isn't just about sex. It's not. And so I have growths that grow in my uterus. I take it for that. Goodness knows if anything, my wife and I are not at risk of getting pregnant. But that is something that is important. And I share that somewhat comedically, somewhat to say sexually with my mom in the room. But in that, like, there's a medical reason that people take it, and it's not just about preventing pregnancy. The other thing that they talked about, because this is also outlined in Dobbs, is that the Justice Clarence Thomas said they're coming after marriage next. And so I'll also share in this, because there was a lot that unraveled for Kristen and I when she's like, oh. But when this leaked back in April, we had just gotten engaged. And planning an October 2023 wedding. I was now declared presented. This was actually getting married wasn't something we were planning on doing. And then it officially got overturned, and we're like, crap. They've already, in this state, have tried to make it so define marriage between a man and a woman. We have right now the Supreme Court law, or the Supreme Court ruling overrides the state constitution, but it's in there as between a man and a woman. They even tried to put in child marriage because they wanted to define it as between a man and a woman. They tried to do it this past election cycle, or this past legislative session. So this past June, Chris and I got married, worried that we weren't going to be able to if we waited until October 2023. These are all very real things that affect all of us, and they love to scream that, oh, we're the party of freedom. But I'm sorry, you're not the party of freedom because if you're in the patient's room, if you're in the people's bedrooms, and if you're trying to restrict people from being in there.
Hello, I'm Debbie. I'm the chair of ETSU's YDSA. I wanted to talk about, or hear more about, which is something that you mentioned earlier. You talked about the fentanyl in our community and people who have personally been affected by that, who have lost their lives. And really the big tie-in here is marijuana usage. I believe that marijuana should be legal in Tennessee, and I kind of wanted to hear what your take is, because I understand you are pro-legalization.
I am absolutely 100% with that question pro-legalization. So let me say that. I'm very glad that our president has taken steps to have the scheduling of marijuana addressed. It does not need to be, it is not a dangerous drug. It's not the same way that I was a pain patient, so I know what the dangers of oxycontin and some of these other drugs. It is not the same thing. So I would love to see that legalized. I know we're missing out on the tax dollars that are coming in, that we see happening in other states, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that could be coming in here, that could be going to fund our schools, to fund programs, to help us with addiction. They don't need to go into our jails. They need to get help. So this is money that could go into that. I agree with our president asking the state governors to, and Dr. Martin would do it, is to pardon those with civil possession offenses. I agree with that. A little bit about me is I used to work for Inside Alliance. Worked there for a little over a year, and was working to address substance use disorder in our community. And it had the grant I was hired under had two goals. One was to get pretrial diversion implemented in Sullivan County, and in the Washington County Jail to get harm reduction programs implemented there. And I believe deeply in these programs, and quite frankly, I'd love to see them expanded and more so, because we have, the recidivism due to possession of drugs is just, we treat it all the wrong ways. But we need more programs. What I've seen is that we have beds for those who need it in treatment centers for 1 out of every 10 people who need it. It got mentioned earlier, but it was something like in the last 3 weeks, there were 12 overdoses, and like 8 or 9 of them were fatal. And 7 of them, I believe, were, as I understand, were cross-contamination that it was marijuana that had touched stuff with fentanyl. And so, if you legalize marijuana, you've made it safer. You don't have to worry about what's in the products. And so I think that we should absolutely do that. So I hope that answers your question. But yes, I'm 100% without everybody in the live stream know that too. I'm for legalization. Okay, so guys, I think this has been an incredible evening. I'm gonna look at my notes real quick. Let's see. We have our questions, and you guys have fantastic questions, by the way. So we're gonna let Kate, if you want to give us your final words. Well, thank you everyone for coming. I also want to call out some people to thank. I want to thank Michelle for, I went to choose this evening for, but thank you, Michelle, for being here and moderating. I want to thank my wife, who's back here, that's up with me all the time. Also, my mom is a door knocking machine. One of them who is remote, but I have one campaign team with Noah Nordstrom, Ariana, and Chase Lindsay. So, when I got into this race, I didn't know what was possible. What I did know was that I've been chair of the Washington County Democratic Party for 2 terms, or 4 years. And in that time, we had a lot, because we organized and we did stuff, that we've seen a lot of stuff happen. And so in 2018, we had our first Democratic primary at the county level. We got a Democrat with a T elected. Everybody who had run was either a Republican or an I. We didn't have any challenging voices on the other side. So we got Jenny Jones elected. And we got Dennis Prater, who was running also that same year in 2018, within like 140 votes of winning that election. It was a big deal. And in that race, we also had a Senate candidate up, and we moved the needle here 12 percentage points in 2018 towards blue. So fast forward to 2020, and we had 120 volunteers out on the field. And over those 4 years, we've raised close to $70,000 to make a difference here. And that election cycle, we moved the needle another 7. By the way, I don't need to not call you out for winning your seat. Just say it was an independent race at that point. Yes. But yeah, we moved the needle 7 percentage points in 2020. And if you pull up the New York Times map, you can see the blue dot of Johnson City out of all of Northeast Tennessee. But there's change happening right here, and the thing is that we have to believe in it too. And I've been out talking to people everywhere, and every opportunity I can, because goodness knows he hasn't been. And stood out at the Appalachian Fair and talked to people. And as they walk by, I'd say, how do you feel about our medical monopoly? And they're like, oh gosh, I just hate it. And as they're passing by, I'm like, I'm running against the guy that needs to stay on and create. And everyone would stop. And they would turn around and come back. And they would tell me how ballot had negatively impacted their life. They would then tell me that they can't stand the fact that we've got a 32-year incumbent that has been there since too long. And they say, what can I do to help? We're talking to people everywhere, all across this district, that are ready for change. He's got 2 mailers that have gone out, and he's going to support congressional term limits. I'm sorry, but if you're a 32-year incumbent, what does that apply to you? So it's time for some common sense in Nashville, and I'm asking for your vote, because I think that change is possible, and I think that November 8th is the day we're going to get it. We've got to really get out here and support Craig. So
and check your information about being there in those dates. And that will continue between October 24th and 28th, at ETSU. October 24th, 28th at ETSU, and then don't forget election days on November 58th. Oh, one more thing,